This episode is brought to you by Bow Bow Ties. Bow Bow Ties makes handmade accessories that give back. 9-year-old Divisha started this business in 2021 to help animals in shelters have better lives and get adopted sooner. 50% of their sales go to shelters, and they have donated over $5,000 as of November 2024. Divisha has worked with 10 animal shelters, and her mission is to make the world a better place for animals. You can use our code SUDT20 to save 20% on your purchase in their Etsy store. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk, the podcast where pet parents, pet guardians, and pet professionals come together to dive into real issues in dog parenting. From controversial training methods to sensitive health topics, we're getting raw and real about what it means to care for our canine companions. Join us every Wednesday for unfiltered conversations, expert insights, and personal stories that will make you laugh, cry, and grow as a pet parent. No topic is off limits and no question goes unanswered. You won't get one perspective here. You'll get them all because every dog is different and every human is too. You could follow along on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Straight Up Dog Talk or by visiting www.straightupdogtalk.com. Tune in from any of your favorite podcast platforms. Welcome to Straight Up Dog Talk. I'm Emma, and we're back again this week with a really cool episode. We have Divisha and Debolina with us from Bow Bow Ties. How are you ladies this evening?
We're good. How about you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so glad that you guys are here. You have such a really fun, unique, and inspiring story to share with the listeners. So I would like you to go ahead and just introduce yourself and then tell us all about your business and how it got started.
Okay. I'm Divisha, and I'm the CEO and founder of Bow Bow Ties. This is my mom.
I'm Debolina, and as per introduction today, I will say that I'm Divisha's mom. That's my introduction. You can talk about Bow Bow Ties today.
Bow Bow Ties is my business where I make bow ties for pets and then donate the funds to animals in the shelter. It started when I went to the shelter looking for a dog to adopt. We didn't find a dog, but after I left, I found myself wanting to help the animals in the shelter. So I started making bow ties for them to make them look cuter and get adopted faster. I donated those to a lot of different shelters in my area. And one day I decided to sell them at a lemonade stand. And people actually really loved it. It had a good outcome. So with that money, I donated it to the shelter. I realized that this was probably a better way to support the shelter than just donating bow ties. So as of January 2024, we've donated over $4,000. And each time that we donate, we also, of course, donate some bow ties with it.
Yeah, I think that's just incredible. How old were you when you decided that you wanted to help animal shelters?
I was 9 years old then.
And how old are you now?
Right now I'm 12.
See, that's incredible. I want the listeners to let that sink in. A 9-year-old had an idea that she has perpetuated over 3 years, and she has raised over $4,000 to help animals in need. Just an incredible story. When we first talked in the pre-interview, you guys told me about Divisha's want of the puppy and some of the difficulties that you had in obtaining a dog because you were trying to rescue. So would you mind sharing that story with the listeners as well?
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So in that story, what Divisha also mentioned, I wanted to say how she say, when she came back from the shelter and a couple of days or months later, also she'll think, what can I do? What can I do? Can I volunteer? And of course, her age was not that time, for volunteering. And she kept, asking different questions like, what can I do? How can I help? And that's how, the whole idea of Bow Bow Ties came. I just want to add, plug in that part. That question was, for me, it was very important, like for a child to keep asking, what can I do? What can I do to help? So that was something that actually got stuck to me. Our journey for finding our dog, Trixie, we come from me and my husband. We never wanted to have a pet in our family. We didn't have any pet earlier also. While growing up back in India, and it was not really an idea that even occurred to us that we will have a pet one day. But Divisha was always very interested. From a very young age, we have seen her petting others' dogs and all, and she always wanted a puppy, and we always thought that this might be something. All kids at a point of time, always wants a puppy. They're always cute. cute, cuddly, and all of that. And we thought, this will phase off. It's okay. She's asking and all. And we started with, I think it's a very common thing. We started with fishes, but gradually we saw how she was actually, even on our Sunday breakfast, she would sit and talk about dogs. She will give us a lot of craft items, especially to me, and hand over different, things of cards, like how she wants dogs. So that's it started. And we used to ask her like different things, okay, fine. If you want dogs, would you be able to not look at screen for about 2 months? And she actually did it, she was 8 years that time. And because I was always testing her, because in our mind, it was just a phase, it will go off, it's okay. But anyway, she convinced us and we started seriously considering looking for a pet. And she used to get these books called Puppy Places and used to read to us.
Yeah,
and those stories are mostly, small stories about fostering dogs and everything. So we started looking for rescuing a dog because that's what she wanted, that, we want to adopt a dog. We started with, I think that website called Pet Finder, where we started looking for, adopting dogs, started giving a lot of applications. I think we went over some 50 to 60 applications. I started about 5 to 6, and then I realized all the questions are almost very similar. So then I told Divi, if you're serious, why don't you keep doing it? All these responses are there. One of the common questions which is always there was, why do you want a pet, or something very similar on those lines? And I had written because our daughter, 8-year-old daughter, wanted a pet. And now I realize, being in, this dog community or dog world, that was probably not the right answer that time, because, just because the 8-year-old wanted a pet, it is not a very responsible answer. That was one. The other thing also, when we're not getting a lot of responses, we didn't get a lot of responses. And if we were getting responses, we were not getting the, acceptance or whatever you want to call it, for the adoption application. Coming from India, India has a lot of street dogs, stray dogs, as we say.
Yeah. So one time we were driving in our car and we saw over 120 dogs just on a small.
It's like a 30-minute drive. It's a small drive down that time at when she was 8 years, or we were. I won't say we were new, but we're still pretty new. About 5 years in US. So I never saw any street dog or anything. So I always, it was always in my mind that maybe there's no need for rescuing Vivi. I mean, you keep thinking about all these things. There are books and all, but maybe this city doesn't have, because I have always seen well-kept dogs in our community and everything. So the idea of, and to be very frank, that time my post on my social media accounts never had so many dog videos or anything, because that's not what I used to search for or anything, right? That was not my interest. But now that I see so many videos and such heartwarming videos, I sometimes go back and think, why didn't I really pay more attention, did a little more research, maybe talk to more people? But anyway, we after about 6 months or so, this was in 2020, right during COVID, in fact. Our search started in February 2020. We were actually planning to go to India in March. And we thought, okay, let's start our research. That's where we went to Homeport Pet Adoption Center, which is our local center. That's our first visit to a shelter or adoption center. That's where also, Divisha's journey of Bow Bow Ties, or the inspiration came from. We saw, I think, 4 dogs. 2 of them were getting some medical treatment. So none of those dogs kind of fitted with our no experience background. And then we said, okay, once we come back, the reason for going there was to have that first experience and understand what actually takes an adoption. To be very honest, I don't have a single friend. I mean, when I say single Indian friend here who has a dog, so I had no other experience. I have colleagues and all who have dogs here. So I didn't have a lot of experience or, learning from any of my friends at that time. So we started that. And then in July, we finally found Trixie through a breeder. She is a very responsible breeder. We did that search where her background and everything. And we now have Trixie for about 4 years now.
Yeah. I got her just before 3rd grade, which was my quarantine year. So it was good to have a puppy around to keep me entertained.
Yeah, I bet. Well, and this is the other thing about your story that's just so incredible, because the cultural background is so different, right? You came from India, where there's all of these street dogs, and people don't have dogs really as pets. And then you come to America and have your friends who are also from India and they don't have pets. Look at this learning journey that you guys have all taken just because Divisha decided that she wanted to have a dog. And also, you grew as a person, as a mom, because this wasn't something that you had ever planned for, something that you had ever even probably even dreamed of. And now here you are raising money for shelters and volunteering at shelters and helping dogs get adopted, which is just, I mean, it's just so incredibly heartwarming and so beautiful to know that you can be at whatever point in your life, you can learn a lesson and you can change something in your life to make it better for yourself and better for others too. So
Yeah.
you got Trixie and you kind of learned a little bit about the rescue system, which is, the rescue system is kind of a disaster. I mean, we have all kinds of issues with the rescue system. There's overpopulation. They're having to euthanize dogs because they don't have space for them.
Yeah.
And it's just a really sad situation. So you finding a way to help give some money and help in these areas. I know I saw a video of you guys at the shelter giving blankets and the bow ties. And I just thought that that was so cute. And I think it's just really inspirational. And it shows people that just every little bit helps. So what you guys are doing and what your mission is just incredible. And I think that you were able to turn your whole point of view around and do something new, which a lot of people are afraid to do. If you could go back and tell yourself about having a dog and getting into getting a dog, what would you tell yourself? What would you tell somebody who's asking that same question right now? I've never had a dog. I don't know what to do. How do I get started?
So, what I would tell myself or a person who's never had a dog, when you're looking through all of the dogs in shelters, definitely I would say please try and adopt a shelter dog. If you're looking through all the dogs, try and find a dog that would work well with you. If you're away a lot, just get a dog who will be fine with that. If you want a dog who gives lots of cuddles and kisses, then look for a dog who might do that. And of course, be very prepared. Do your research for what's going to happen, right? This is a big change in your life. Getting a dog.
It is.
Right?
It's a huge change. And okay, I hope that everybody who's listening lets that sink in. This is a 12-year-old girl that is telling you to do your research and pick a dog that fits your lifestyle. This is something that we have said many, 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 many times on this podcast. But if a 12-year-old girl understands this, you guys should understand this too. It's really not that hard to do your research to find a dog that fits your lifestyle. If you don't know something about the dog that you're bringing into your home, how are you going to know how to help that dog have manners? How do you know that you're going to help your dog run out their energy or learn how to do tricks? You have to have the right set of skills for each dog because every dog is different, right? And Trixie is, you guys take her on vacation with you and you go on adventures with her and she's totally down for the ride. So you guys found a dog that was perfect for your lifestyle. So why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about Trixie?
So, yes, we got Trixie, as I said before, during quarantine. So, Trixie is such a sweet dog. Yeah, she's such a sweet dog. She loves sleeping, definitely, and she loves eating. So, very food motivated dog. I'd say that for sure.
That's helpful.
Training, yes,
Yes.
that's a lot for her training.
She's also very smart and active because there's the lab and the poodle, right? Pretty good combination.
Yes, very energetic outside, and very mellow at home. Very super smart. Her training was, we being very new, I felt like her training was really like a piece of cake. I mostly learned through videos because we were in summer of 2020 and fall, so it was difficult to find people in person for training.
Yeah, so I spent some of my free time just looking through those videos, like, what is something that Trixie could do? Like, I want to teach Trixie to do something really.
Well, there's so many ways to learn how to train your dog now, right? I'm doing virtual training
and I love those trainings and the tips that you share, by the way. Helpful. Yes.
I love to hear that. Hopefully you guys will teach Trixie some tricks and you can show me what you teach her. I just think that it's such an awesome world that we live in now that we can just Google how to train my dog this, and it comes up with 500 different ways to teach your dog how to do it. During COVID, that became really very necessary for a lot of people. But unfortunately, not everybody had the mindset that, okay, let's get a dog and train it and have this companionship with the dog. And then everybody started going back to work after COVID, and then now the shelters are full because of it, right? And then we have these backyard breeders and puppy mills breeding, and then now the shelters are even more full. So it's kind of like a combination of problems that we're seeing because of this, which is really unfortunate. But again, you guys have such a great mission to help dogs everywhere. I think that it's just so fun. And you told me initially that you hand sewed the bow ties. Are you still doing that?
We don't hand sew them currently. We use a sewing machine usually, and it's been such a big improvement, thankfully.
Save some time.
Yeah, hand sewing takes a long time. My first bow tie that I've ever made, I still have it with me. Yeah, so those were hand sewn. It took so much time. So my mom just had this sewing machine lying around. She never used it.
And not lying around. I started to make masks for it during COVID. That's all. I'm not a very good sewer as such, so I couldn't sew them that well. But I tried.
I still tried, but then after that,
it was lying around.
Yeah, it was. Why not put this to use, right? So then I figured out how to use the sewing machine.
And YouTube tutorial, to be very frank, because by that time I've lost the manual and everything. And I am not that great with figuring out how the whole bobbin thing and all of that works. So she figured out all of it.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, so that was such a big improvement.
And then you also learned about what hot glue gun, right?
Yeah,
that's also
I also learned the significance of a hot glue gun like 1.5 years later. It wasn't as soon.
Took us some time.
Yeah. So there's actually this middle part of the bow tie, which we used to hand sew those, and they took
really
a lot
hard because a lot of layers.
Yeah, like a lot of like layers of fabric and glue, right? So we had to hand sew them, and since it was so thick, we couldn't do it that well. So it's where hot glue guns came in. We just use the hot glue to glue that part together, and it's just so much easier. Yeah.
I bet.
Okay, can I go back to one point about your training? I wanted to mention, especially for someone, again, new to dogs, new to training a dog. And you were right that there's so many videos and resources available to us. But also there are a lot of videos which we later on realized are not the right way of training dogs. I remember, and these are all very famous trainers in the world. And one of them I remember because I tried doing that. So Trixie, as I mentioned, came, she is, as all puppies are, like a shark teeth, all have those, like that type. Of course, I don't have any photos, but my hands were all with red marks because I couldn't manage that.
Her hands were full of red marks. You should have seen mine.
Yes, exactly. We had a lot of that. But in one of the training, and again, someone very famous, taught that put some coins in the thing and in a bottle and shake it and water spray, and those were not right. So that forceful training. Thankfully, I came across a Facebook page of positive enforcement training and I followed them. That was such a big shift. I think that's very important to figure out or have that awareness about training and what kind of training works. We also had another organization close to our house. They had this board and training, and they guaranteed some, I think 6 weeks of boarding and guaranteed some commands and all. And we didn't take it, thankfully, but also, that just having that awareness, it doesn't happen with a guarantee. Training cannot happen with any guarantee of this many months. And when somebody is guaranteeing, that means there's something wrong. You cannot make a dog because there are so many things Trixie might not learn or doesn't want to do, as long as that's not harmful, or Trixie might not be as responsive as, or maybe doesn't listen to me like many dogs that I see in the internet, may not be that, but she's wonderful. She's very friendly, she's loving and everything. So I think what kind of training is important, and understanding what works for your dog is so important. Sorry, I had to go back and mention
No,
that.
I really appreciate you bringing that up because it really is very important. You have to train the dog in front of you, first of all. And it's very important to understand what your dog is communicating to you because your dog is an individual that has its own personality and its own thoughts and its own way of learning. And my dog is not the same as your dog. And like you said, any trainer that guarantees something is not a trainer that you want to go to. You know, I've spent a lot of time curating guests for this podcast, and we have shown both sides of the spectrum. We've shown balanced training and we've shown force-free training. And I'm kind of like somewhere in the middle of that, where we call it relationship-based training. And I don't use tools, but I used to use tools and I know how to properly use tools. But a collar is also a tool. A leash is a tool. And I think that the way that we assign language is very, very important. And we have to just be very, very careful. And that's, you know, my goal with the podcast and with my dog training is to educate people that there are other better, less forceful ways out there that we can have these great relationships with our dogs and actually treat them like they're members of their family. So I'm so glad that you found your way into a good community that really helped you along with that because you had no experience. You know, you didn't know. You could have sent your dog to a board and train that would have traumatized her potentially, or continued to look into research methods where they're telling you to spray with the spray bottle or shake the can of coins or whatever it was. There are definitely some outdated methods, and I've been working with animals for 30 years. And when I was young, our dogs were not necessarily trained. They were house trained and they knew how to sit and whatever, but they kind of just hung out. And what I would do with my dog now, my parents are just like, what the heck? They never did that with any of our dogs growing up. So, you know, that's a big shift of change. And I hope that that just means that we're moving forward in this industry and that we're going to continue to grow and make our lives better with our dogs in tow as part of that consideration. So I think that that's amazing that you guys were able to figure that out. And since the last time we talked, you guys now have a guest in your home as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your guest?
Yes, so our guest is Kito. We're fostering him for a little bit, and he is such a sweet dog. He loves being around you, but he isn't clingy, and he gives kisses and
very gentle, I think, very gentle and
really
mellow.
gentle. And he's really mellow.
Yet playful. He's opening up. It's been how many days? 5 days? 6 days that he's with us now. He just came from Mexico last Tuesday or Wednesday. And he's finally opening up, now playful. And he's a dream dog, not clingy, but at the same time very cuddly, doesn't have any separation anxiety. Even we have been trying and looking at different things. It's just seeing all the differences between all these dogs. I think Kito is quite the opposite of Trixie in a way. Loves being around all the time. And again, as I said, very gentle. And Trixie is very jealous, by the way, extremely jealous.
Yeah, she came home from school just today. And I walked in my mom's room. And then I'm petting Kito, and then Trixie crashes into Kito. She's like, "Oh, you're petting Kito? No, pet me. Pet me."
Yes. It's also actually a great learning opportunity for Trixie, I think, just to be sharing things and being around another dog in the same house. Trixie has a lot of friends outside because she's that way, very friendly, but sometimes I feel like she doesn't understand giving space to other dogs. That's being a bit of a challenge for us to know how to make Trixie understand that, because she always wants to play with Kito, but Kito is like, okay, chill out, not in the mood to play, by the way. But Trixie never like, no,
Trixie, like during the first few days, she always wanted to play with Kito. She was just hovering around Kito, like, will you play with me? Will you play with me? Yeah, and she's always just such a puppy. She's just like,
Trixie is actually quite a puppy that way. And now the thing is, whenever Kito comes, and Kito loves cuddling and just sitting, and she's small, so she's always on our lap on something, and Trixie's always like with her head trying to move Kanito out of her lap.
Yeah, she's like headbutting to Kanito. Like,
oh my goodness. Well, at least they get along. That's good to know that they get along. And probably is a little bit of an adjustment for her. I can imagine that going from being a solo dog to having a guest is a different experience. I know it was a challenge for Toby when I got Fitz. He didn't like Fitz for almost 3 years. He was not pleased about his presence at all. You would never know that now, but initially he was not very nice to Fitz, and he would boss him around and he would bark at him and he bit him a couple of times. It was not nice. And that came from some of him, his past. He didn't have a great past. Everybody had to learn together. And that's just another one of those situations where you have to be able to understand what your dogs are telling you. So I think that it's great that you're making sure that Trixie isn't bothering him too much and that he's getting his space and his cuddles and his loves too. And like you said, he's just here for a little while. Hopefully he'll find his forever home soon. But I think that it's great that you have found an additional way other than your business to help dogs as well. Do you have a plan to continue fostering in the future? Or do you think that this will be a one-time only thing?
I mean, it depends. Like, and as I said, this is actually our second time that we are trying out
but the
fostering.
first time it was like a really quick short foster. We only had her for
4 days, just for 4 days.
Yeah.
As I said, the foster was traveling and we wanted to, that was our first experience. So we didn't also want to get into a long-term thing, trying out how it works out. Trixie was also young anyway, but it's not that we have plans for fostering all the time, but I think we will keep our doors open is how I would put it. And we'll see when we could, to be very frank, with our both working and our school, after school, it is a difficult, challenging work to, like right now, to be very frank, I am actually working from home. I spoke to my supervisor, I have to work from home so that I can manage the situation, as I was telling, between Trixie and Kanito, which might not be all the time possible. So depending on situations, we would love to foster whenever possible is how I will put it right now.
Yeah, and I used to read that series of books and they were all about how this one family would foster dogs. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And before we actually got Trixie, my parents were like, maybe you should foster a dog before. So I was really excited with that. So that was one of the things that we were planning on doing before getting Trixie. And it was mostly because of that book series. I had always wanted a dog, so fostering was like the next best thing if my parents said no.
We're also thinking that's right, yes. We initially thought that maybe before adopting, why don't we start with fostering? But that time didn't happen again. Maybe we didn't have the connections right. And then later on, we heard about Dog Gone Seattle, which is a big community, like a network only, through fostering. And that was from where we first did our fostering. And this one is Juno Stain, from whom we are fostering right now, Kanito. So yes, we are open to fostering, but we might not be available all the time, depending sometimes on work schedule and Divisha's.
I think that's good though.
It would have been like a bit tough to foster a dog when I was doing like after school sports, like straight after school, go to the school sports team, do a lot of practice and do the games. And I had robotics at that same time, so my schedule was entirely filled, so that wouldn't have been the greatest time to foster.
We're also not home now with offices, back to offices, like in-person offices. We are now not home all the time, so it's figure out how to manage this.
I think that's really great though. I mean, that's a really good example for the listeners to talk about time management and how much time you're going to have for the dog and how much time you can commit. But that's kind of, another one of those conversations that we've had on and off on this podcast as well, is that a lot of people have returned their dogs to the shelters because they don't feel that they have enough time for their dogs. They have a 12-hour shift, have to work an overnight or this or that or the other thing. But the message that I keep putting out there is that if you're gone and you have a 12-hour shift, find a way to get somebody to walk your dog or let your dog have some space to roam around where they can have a pee pad or something in the house if you can't hire somebody to walk them for whatever reason. Because 12 hours alone in your house is better than 24 hours in a shelter.
Very true. Yes. Yes.
So what do you think that your best experience at the shelter has been?
My best experience.
But you're always excited about.
Yeah, I'm always excited. It's very hard to say. Some of the times I'll go there, make my donation, and I'll just leave. But other times, the funner times, I go there, I make the donation, and then sometimes they ask me if I want to meet a dog. And then I'm very excited when that happens. And they'll bring out a dog, and I get to pet the dog and learn about the dog. It's just really nice. And then sometimes when I'm going with my friends because they've helped create something or they've been in the lemonade stand with me.
And you did pet toys together.
Yeah, we did a small workshop. That time when we went, we actually got an entire tour of the shelter. My friends were so excited, and so was I. We got to pet this adorable cat. We got to meet all the dogs, and that was probably another fun time.
Also, it was so good that, when we first went, that, the lemonade stand she's talking about, when we first went for the donation, and the friend whom she put up that.
Yeah, we went there, and that first time we donated, my friend came with me, and he came with us to see around the shelter, meet all the animals, like a little tour again. And so then that time they went to the cat section, and then they saw this adorable cat, and there's this like small litter of cats. And so we got to meet the cats, we got to hold them, and it was really nice. And then they already had a cat, and so they were like cat lovers, right? So both he and his sister,
next day they went with their parents and they adopted.
I think it was the same day actually.
Or the same day.
Yeah, it was the same day. They just went and adopted a cat from there.
So, overall, I'm saying such a great experience, right? Taking a friend there and they adopting a cat. And this time also the friends that went with Divisha, after they made all the different, pet toys, and they went for the donation. This was the first experience for those kids actually to go around and see a shelter, which, and also just to see from them starting with making those pet toys, and whom the receiving end are these shelter animals. I think just seeing the whole circle makes a lot of difference, even in the children's minds.
I completely agree. And I think that it's so great that you're not just educating yourself, you're educating your friends, and you're bringing more people into this animal loving community, which is just so incredible. And you're making incredible changes for the rescue world. I'm so inspired by your story. I think that it's so wonderful. And we have our Tallulah beads that we got for Fitz, and he wears them every time we have to charge his collar, and he walks around and he likes his little fancy little necklace. He looks adorable in it.
Yes.
It's one of my favorite things. He gets so upset when I take off his collar, and he looks at me like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? Give me back my necklace." And then we just put his little Tallulah beads on him, and he's like, "Oh, okay, this is fine." And he prances around with it on. So he's very, very happy with them. We'll have to continue to follow and get some more as you guys continue to grow your shop. Why don't you talk just a little bit about your shop? Because you had to move your shop, and now you have an Etsy shop. So What kind of products are you offering currently?
So currently we're offering our bow ties. We haven't put bandanas on the store yet, and Tabitha beads, which are the dog and cat necklaces.
I call them Tallulah beads. It's Tabitha beads.
And you just added the new line of that, patriotic bow ties.
Yeah, so we also added some new patriotic bow ties for, July. Fun fact, July 4th is also Trixie's birthday. Yeah. So
that's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Does she do okay with fireworks?
No.
Yeah, it's hard at my house.
Yeah. Like the day is it's the best day for her, and then the nighttime it's just So she just stays with us during the nighttime, which is good.
That's holidays are always a struggle. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, and New Year's Eve, all of them have fireworks, I feel like, and where I live. And it's just like, okay, here we go. We have to prepare for this because both of my dogs hate it. They hate it so much.
So is Trixie. She shivers a lot, and we try a lot of those trainings to make her hear the sounds and everything. And then we also have another festival, I don't know if you're aware of Diwali, which is also about fireworks. It's an Indian festival.
It's the Festival of Lights.
Yes. So that is also celebrated with a lot of fireworks. So it happens here as well, some fireworks around that time. So yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then your bandanas have pom-poms. That's
Oh,
very
yeah.
that you've started making. But we haven't got the time to upload them on Etsy yet. Hopefully
Yeah.
in summer break, Divisha would be able to do it.
Yeah, we're gonna do that soon. So the bandanas, I just glue the pom-poms onto them, just a little flare of color. So that
I
looks
love
really
it.
good.
I'm going
And
to have to definitely take a look at those. I think we might need some bandanas with pom-poms for Toby and Fitz.
We actually started, so this is another story. There's this, person who donated us fabric
yeah,
last year.
she donated a lot of fabric to us. And so we were unsure of what to do with it because they were not the material that we usually use. And so we had an idea to make them into bandanas and write adopt me on it with a marker or like puffy paint, right? And then we could just donate those to the animals in the shelter. So they would be wearing something that shows that they're adoptable.
We made those Adopt Me bandanas last year because of the donation somebody gave us. And this year again, somebody from Hawaii actually donated a lot of fabric, and I got another 3 rounds of boxes of fabric. We have to upload all of this in our channel very soon. But so there's a lot of fabric to do bandanas now. The bow ties that Divisha makes, those are flannel bow ties most of the time, but we're trying to do some cotton ones this time, especially the patriotic ones. But it's just wonderful to see, as also as a mother, just the love and the support that all of you showered towards Divisha. It makes us very emotional. It's actually very touching that how different people support in whatever ways they can, So it's really very, very touching.
Well, I think that that's wonderful that people are giving back to help you make such an impact on this community, because what you are doing is inspirational and it is emotional. I was telling somebody about it earlier this evening and I started to get teared up, and I'm just like, I can't believe that, this is someone so young that has figured out such a huge life lesson at such an early age. And I just really feel like you're going to make such an impact on this world now and continuing into the future. And it's just so exciting to see that. And what a wonderful mom to support your daughter and her dream, and to put in that extra time, because it is, there's always things going on. I know she's in sports and robotics and all those kinds of things, and then you have homework, plus you have to have time to make the bow ties and the bandanas and all of the things, the necklaces, and then you have your regular job, plus you have to take care of the dog and the rest of your family. So I think that it's really phenomenal that you have found something you can do together that inspires other people and helps all of these pets. So see, me getting emotional. Thank you so much, because you are just making such a huge contribution to this community, and I appreciate you. And that is why I wanted you guys to come on the podcast, because I want everyone to know that there is this incredible small business that is helping animals and also has adorable products with just a couple of wonderful women behind it. Is there anything you guys would like to leave the listeners with this evening before we close out?
listeners, if you want to help animals or people or whatever you want, go for it. Do whatever drives you. That's how I started this. I really wanted to help the animals, the voiceless animals in the shelter when I was young. I was always thinking about how they didn't have a voice to like stand up for themselves, to speak for themselves. So that's why I started this. That
Whatever drives you should do that.
yeah. So
And buy from us. Support us. I think that's a big thing always, so that we can
plug
continue.
yourself.
We can continue doing.
that's one of our challenges, like finding new customers, new people reaching out. So that's why we also are starting Etsy, so we have a new platform for people to buy from us.
Yeah, it's like the other way around. I follow her footsteps, then she's following mine. And I always tell her I'm your social media manager, because if she doesn't have access to all the online stuff so much, because with the age and all, I'm not comfortable for having her all these accounts, so I get to manage it. But hopefully soon, that she's so interested in the social world, of course, she will be managing it. But it's been a journey. It's been such a great journey, learning from Divisha and learning from, and because I am in that online world now, the dog community online world, I learned so much from you, Emily, but like there's so many things that I'm learning all the time from different people or different techniques, and even just awareness in general, So that's been a huge learning opportunity for me. So I always thank Divisha that thank you for opening that whole new life experiences for us.
And just such a beautiful story. Well, I'm definitely going to have you guys come back next year and give us an update and just revisit some of the adventures that you guys are having and see where you're at in the foster world. But we're going to close up this episode. So thank you so much for being here tonight, Divisha and Develina. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for
having
so
us.
Much. Thank
Absolutely. You. Thank you guys for listening. You can find the information to the Etsy shop and the Instagram account in the episode notes, and we will see you guys next week on Straight Up Dog Talk. Straight Up Dog Talk was created by Emily Breslin. It is edited and produced under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk LLC and Emily Breslin. If you're enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe and be sure you don't miss an episode. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister show, Unpacked, with Jerry Sheriff and Madison Simpson. Thanks for listening to Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next week.